Sahanau bhunaktu Saha viryam karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
On the surface, life seems good. You have come into the world with desires, and the world is abounding with objects. So, there seems to be a perfect fit. And you go all out to try and obtain as many objects of desire as possible. But then, after some time, you meet with some obstacles, some setbacks, and that happiness eludes you. The beauty of it is, even if you obtain everything that you wanted, this thing called happiness is not there. Take a look at the richest people in the world, the most powerful people in the world, the most good-looking people in the world. Are they happy? Is the question. They're still looking for more. Desperately. They're craving for more. So, a mature mind, a mature individual starts thinking, pondering, reflecting, and asks himself or herself, is this the way that I should be going? And then, like the wise people said, they understand that in the world there are only two things. One is that everything changes. Change is the only guarantee that we have in life. So when good things come to you, enjoy them while they're there, but understand they will go. When bad things come, same thing. The worst is over. It can only improve. And the second thing is suffering. Do you know any human being anywhere in the world who has not gone through suffering, sorrow, misery? So, when a king went to a sage and asked him, what is life all about? He said simply, man is born, suffers, dies, finished. So, and any glimpses of happiness that brighten our lives seem to be deceptive. Before you know it's there, it's gone. And every enjoyment is marred by something else. Those who don't have it suffer because they don't have objects of desire. Those who have are afraid of losing it. The rich are afraid of losing their wealth, so they're suspicious of even their family members. The beautiful, afraid of deformity, of losing it, aging. That is why there's a whole industry that is devoted to just keeping you looking young. Detox. What is that? Botox, not detox. Botox, cosmetic surgery, all kinds of painful procedures you go through just to look, just not to lose your beauty. The healthy are afraid of disease, the learned of rivals, competition. Aristocrats are afraid of dishonor, and the virtuous of slander. So something or the other you're afraid of. So the question arises and the seeking starts. When you start seeking, then you understand that there are people who have gone this way earlier, who have reached the state of realization and have laid down a clear path towards this truth. And that is what the Bhagavad Gita is about. Today is the last day, and those of you who have come all 4 days, that in itself is a huge achievement. Because as we saw earlier, the world is full of temptation. And what happens is the slightest thing, my brother-in-law's sister's daughter is getting engaged, so I have to go. I can't come. Flimsy excuses. People who say these things should be ashamed of saying it, but they've just fallen for it. And all our lives we are living on surface entertainment. Surface, not even entertainment, distractions. Something distracts you, you go there. Something catches your eye, you're out. That is our state. From there we have to go to a state of maturity where the mind is absolutely steady, unwavering. And that is where the power is. So, before we continue, let's take a recap of yesterday's discussion. Yesterday we took a look at action in greater depth, and we completed the emotional support system where Krishna finally gives the threat and Arjuna seems to respond. So Krishna starts, verses 25 to 35, the doctrine of action. And he starts by saying, just as the ignorant act with attachment, so should the wise one act without detachment. How to get detached? To work for loka sangraha. And the wise should not confuse the ignorant. Gunas function. Atman is immaculate, means you are immaculate. The gunas function. Then we took a look at verse 30, which speaks of the 6-point plan to perfect action, consisting of the generation of energy by intellectual focus, emotional surrender, and dynamic activity. This energy gets dissipated in 3 unproductive channels: worry over the past, anxiety for the future, and excitement in the present. So even if your mind is in the present, if you are excited about it, you don't see what is in front of you. And then, if you don't follow this, the only thing that you have to look forward to is destruction. So, this pathway to excellence is threefold because you have 3 equipments: body, mind, intellect. And for each of them, if you change the direction, if you refine the activity of this particular instrument and get all of them moving towards the state of realization, there will be a meteoric rise in your personality. So, what is this fast track to excellence is the question. Excellence is achieved through, number 1, sincerity of action. Number 2, purity of heart. Number 3, clarity of thought. Just take a look at these 3. Most of us don't have any. If there is one person who works sincerely, then he doesn't have the other 2. If you have one, you don't have the other 2. So what happens is, even though you put in effort in one area, and there is a growth there, if you don't take a look at the other 2, they pull you down. So if you want to achieve a well-rounded development of your personality, you need to take a look at all these 3. These 3 are actually Karma Yoga, first one; Bhakti Yoga, purity of heart; and Jnana Yoga, clarity of thought. So, what is the basis, the foundation of Karma Yoga? Karma Yoga is simply moving, shifting, transforming from living your life with an attitude of taking, grabbing, aggrandizing, to giving, serving, adding value to others. Why is this necessary? Because, as Swami Ramatirtha said more than 100 years ago, the only way to gain is to give. So when you give, you gain. If you grab, you lose. This is a law. Look back into your life, you will see that it's functioning. Go home today, experiment with it, you'll find it works 100%. It's not just that you should give only to receive, then you're not giving really. But you go beyond it. As long as your mind is, the vision is myopic and you only see yourself, I, me, myself, you're obsessed with it, how can you achieve excellence? To achieve anything meaningful, to get to the top, to excel, your mind must expand. That is the essential prerequisite to success. Even in 100% commercial endeavor, you must shift your attention from you to the other person, the customer, the client, whoever it is. And then say, okay, let me see what I can do for you. Only then do you achieve profit. Not just that, when your mind expands, you get creative, ideas come to you. And let's face it, you are not a servant sitting there and cleaning and mopping and things like that. You are in your workplaces because of the capacity to think. And if you don't use this capacity to think, then you're not worth anything. At least a manual laborer does manual labor. You neither do labor nor think creatively. So, first is, when you give, you gain. You attain prosperity. As Dr. Viktor Frankl said, prosperity is the unintended side effect of your dedication to a cause greater than yourself. So prosperity is not the reason for you to work. The reason for you to work is yajna, higher ideal. You want to serve, sacrifice towards a larger goal. The side effect is immense prosperity. And number 2, happiness. Just observe people around you. Take a look at children. See, adults fake their emotions. But children can't fake, don't fake. They can't pretend. So take a look at 2 children playing. One child comes and says, "Yeah, I've got something for you. I've got a gift for you. This is my gift to you." What expression does the child have on her face? Joy, happiness, cheer. When a child is saying, "It's mine, don't touch it," what expression does the child have on its face? Frown, correct. Which means, when you give, you're happy. In other words, only when you give will you be happy. As long as you're grabbing, you can never be happy. This is a law. And number 3, most important, this is the purpose of Karma Yoga. When you shift your attention to a higher desire, higher ideal, the lower desires lose their hold on you. So you develop spiritually. Then comes, so in action, listen to this.
हम न सोचे हमें क्या मिला है, हम ये सोचे किया क्या है अर्पण, फूल खुशियों के बाटे सभी को, सबका जीवन ही बन जाए मधुबन.
So, the overriding concern in your mind should be not how much you've aggrandized, not how much you've acquired, but to what extent have you repaid. Why? Because, as we saw earlier, we are hopeless debtors. We have received so much in life. We are so much in debt that at best you can only offer a token. So the constant endeavor in your mind should be, how much can I give? That is Karma Yoga. Then comes Bhakti Yoga, purity of heart. Bhakti Yoga is not swearing love to a God that you don't know. Bhakti Yoga is not sitting there and pouring your emotions out to a stone idol. It is the ability to connect with God's creations, which means all beings around. So basically, it is the difference between attachment and detachment. The love that you claim to have now, drop the selfishness from it. Drop the expectations from it. Drop demands that you make on others. And drop the preferential. So because of all this, because of your selfishness, you have preferential love. I love only my children. All other children I hate. I love only my spouse. I'm not suggesting you love other spouses. But it's very restricted. So, from there you have to move to universal love, because there is nothing that you want from anyone. And why do you love them? Because you see yourself in them. Swami Ramatirtha gives a beautiful story of a king who, just before he entered the darbar, would enter a small room to which only he had access. And that room was bare, empty, except that it was full of mirrors. So he would enter that room, make sure that he was truly presentable in court, and after a few minutes, leave the room and go enter the court. And there was always a man who would, it was kept locked, would open the room for him and lock it after he left. One day, that servant forgot to lock the room. And after the king left, the king's favorite pet, dog, the only pet in the entire palace, entered that mirror room. And the dog got a shock. He said, I'm supposed to be the only one in the whole palace. How come there are other dogs? So immediately he felt threatened, insecure. And when you feel threatened and insecure, what do? That's exactly what he did. He snarled and growled at the other dogs. When you snarl into a mirror, what happens? Those dogs snarled back at him. He got even more angry. Then he barked at them. And to his horror, he found all the other dogs barking at him. And then he attacked the dogs. And by the time the king came back, the dog was lying there in a pool of blood, dead. So Swami Ramatirtha tells us, don't live life like a dog. Live life like a king. What is the difference between the king and the dog? When the king looked at the reflection in the mirror, he didn't view the reflection as somebody different from him. He looked at the reflection, what he saw in the mirror, and immediately understood it was himself. He saw himself in his reflections, and therefore he admired himself in every one of the reflections. So when there is a connect, when you see yourself in the other person, there is a completely different relationship from seeing otherness. So when the dog entered the room, the dog also saw the reflection. But the dog did not have the capacity to understand that what he was seeing was nothing but himself. And that made the difference. So, Bhakti is all about connecting with people, seeing yourself in others and others in yourself. So you see yourself in the reflection and you see the reflection as nothing but me. So there's a totally different feeling. You admire yourself in the images that you see. Although it's different, it's out there, but you understand it as me. Similarly, come back to our life. There is at least some small area where you feel oneness. Let's say with your child. When you look at your child is different from you. But you only see yourself in the child. Right? Therefore, you don't feel threatened, you don't feel insecure. When the child does well, you celebrate. When the child experiences ill health or hurt, you suffer with the child. You feel exactly the same way as the child does. That is love. So, it's about understanding that all living beings are nothing but reflections of your own self. This is Bhakti. So a person may achieve this and not have love for God. Krishna says, I accept such a person as my devotee. The 12th chapter of the Gita, someday we'll get there, says, such a person, I love that. So unrequited love Krishna gives. Whether you love me or not, I will love you if you meet with this requirement. Then comes clarity of thought. We are moving in a matter of minutes from Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga. But it takes a lifetime, sometimes many lifetimes, to really put it in practice. But if you really try hard, you can achieve it here and now. So it depends on how badly you want it. Clarity of thought is Jnana Yoga. Jnana Yoga is not about achieving mastery of the scriptures, being able to cross-reference from one Upanishad to the other, from Socrates to Emerson to Gita and all that sort of thing. It's not that. It's about getting to the depth of the matter and understanding that behind the changing, ephemeral world is something that is permanent, which never changes. And that changeless entity you are. So the search in Jnana Yoga, it's as if Krishna, God, the permanent, is playing hide and seek with you. You're trying to penetrate through the impermanent to the permanent. And halfway through, suddenly you miss it. And then you look somewhere else. To be able to grasp it, to get to the bottom of it, and that struggle itself is Jnana Yoga. Awareness that all this is changing. But in and through the transient, there has to be something that is permanent. And you reach out for that with all your being, Your intellect discriminates. So it's not about intelligence or gathering information. It is about developing the strength of the intellect. As we saw the other day, this is what makes you stand out as a living being, as a species, compared to all other living beings in the world. Only the human being has an intellect. Only the human being is able to decipher things. Only the human being is able to rise spiritually to the state of enlightenment. But nobody seems to have that. Forget getting to realization. Even basic clarity in the world we don't have. The ability to use the intellect to control the whims and fancies of the mind, to control the pressures of your sense organs. That intellect is what makes for Jnana Yoga. In the end, it's about understanding that all the knowledge, the Vedas themselves, which are the highest known source of knowledge, are only a means to an end. They are a part of the world. But you need them to get to the transcendental. It's like when your clothes are dirty, you add another impurity to your clothes, which is the detergent. The detergent is also another impurity, right? But the detergent has the capacity of removing the dirt and itself goes away, leaving your clothes clean, pure. Spiritual knowledge is like that. It is one more impurity which is introduced into your system. But it has the capacity of removing all other impurities, and in the end, itself goes. So, a jnani is one who is objective with reference to the world, is also objective with reference to the three yogas, the spiritual practices, the knowledge. And when you practice these three yogas, you are able to divest your personality, your mind of the bulk of your desires. 90% of your desires go, you're left with a handful of desires which are highly refined desires. Desire to reach God, desire to serve the Guru, desire to do good to humanity, all unselfish, selfless desires. These last traces of desire vanish when you practice meditation. So meditation is a postgraduate exercise which you can practice only after your mind is freed from the bulk of your desires. Then the mind automatically becomes contemplative, reflective, it is available to you and is fit for meditation. It becomes naturally meditative. Then you give it a point of focus, meditation, and in the deep heat of meditation, in its very depth, you're supposed to stop the chant. Meditation is repetition of one thought only, whatever that one thought is, to the exclusion of all other thoughts, under the supervision of the intellect. So when you are meditating and you are in deep meditation, you stop the chant. What is left is silence. So in meditation, there is the sound and the silence. The mind is repeating the thought. The mind is nothing but a flow of thoughts. The intellect is discriminating between sound and silence. When the sound stops, thought flow goes, mind is extinct. There is only silence. There are no two things for the intellect to discriminate. The intellect goes. What remains is Atman. You explode into the state of realization.